An unprecedented event altered the British monarchy, bypassing all traditional royal protocols, and the Buckingham Palace Communications Office, Prince William, Princess Catherine, and Princess Anne launched a live, unencrypted global broadcast. Their message was immediate and clear. They are releasing classified evidence regarding the death of Diana, Princess of Wales, and they have publicly named Queen Camilla as the central figure in a long-standing institutional cover-up. The broadcast interrupted major international news networks at exactly 10 in the morning, Greenwich Mean Time. The three senior royals broadcasted from an undisclosed, secure location. Prince William directly addressed the camera, stating that for 27 years, the global public and his own brother had been handed a carefully constructed narrative. He recalled the official statements, claiming his mother was simply the victim of a tragic accident and intense media pursuit in Paris. He then declared that the official narrative is incomplete and deliberately misleading. According to Prince William, Princess Anne recently uncovered physical evidence proving a coordinated campaign to monitor and silence Diana. He emphasized that this is an active, ongoing threat. The prince revealed that recent security breaches had directly compromised the safety of his wife, Catherine, and their 3 children, forcing them to take public action. He referenced a specific, recent incident where a vehicle carrying his family was intentionally forced off a rural road, an event initially dismissed as a minor traffic incident, but later traced to tampered mechanics. During the broadcast, William recounted his exact declaration to the public. He stated that the crown cannot be sustained on deception or suppressed investigations. He then explicitly named Queen Camilla, accusing her associates of orchestrating a suppression campaign documented in hidden intelligence files as Operation Marionette. He alleged that this operation was specifically designed to hide unauthorized financial networks and to bury Diana's own investigations into these networks just weeks before her death. Princess Anne's findings were detailed as the foundation of this broadcast. After locating a hidden compartment containing Diana's personal documents, international bank codes, and a draft of a highly sensitive letter from 1995, Anne brought the evidence to the Prince of Wales. The broadcast confirmed that the royal institution is now fractured, with the heir to the throne drawing a definitive line against those who participated in the historical cover-up. To prevent any retaliation, legal injunctions, or suppression of this new evidence, Prince William outlined a precise digital security measure. He announced the immediate formation of the Diana Truth Foundation. He then disclosed a tactical failsafe. Exactly 50 independent investigative journalists across multiple international jurisdictions currently possess highly encrypted digital copies of the entire Operation Marionette dossier. This includes the financial ledgers linked to the driver in Paris and the surveillance logs from 1997. He made it clear to the global audience and to the palace establishment that if any attempt is made to halt their internal investigation, or if any member of his family faces sudden legal or physical pressure, the encryption keys will automatically trigger. Every document, bank transfer record, and unedited photograph detailing the network's activities will be released simultaneously to the public domain. This decentralized strategy ensures that the information is now entirely beyond the reach of local legal jurisdictions and institutional censorship. This historic broadcast marks a definitive break within the royal family. The heirs to the throne have openly challenged the reigning monarch's inner circle with documented evidence. The files are secured off-site, the public has been notified, and the deadline for absolute transparency has been set. Right now, those 50 journalists are standing by with the encrypted files. Before institutional pressure attempts to restrict or remove this coverage from global video platforms, it is crucial to keep this information circulating. Hit the subscribe button, leave a like, and share this broadcast immediately across all your social networks. The truth about Operation Marionette is finally coming to light, and widespread public awareness is the only way to ensure the full dossier is unsealed. Why would Prince William take such an unprecedented step, risking the foundation of the institution to publicly confront his stepmother? The answer does not stem from recent palace disputes or passing family friction. It traces back to the spring of 2024, hidden within the walls of a sealed, dust-covered room at Kensington Palace, and a single, handwritten document that history tried to bury. To understand the magnitude of this discovery, we must look at the established facts. In 2003, international media was stunned by the release of the now infamous mishap letter. Written by Princess Diana in October 1995, just 10 months after her separation, the letter contained a highly specific and chilling prediction. She wrote that a deliberate accident was being planned for her car, explicitly detailing brake failure and serious head injury, supposedly to clear the path for a new royal marriage. Following a lengthy official police inquiry led by Lord Stevens, authorities concluded that the princess had been suffering from heightened anxiety and paranoia, allegedly manipulated by rogue journalists. The version of the letter released to the public was heavily redacted. Crucial names were blacked out, the narrative was neatly packaged, and the public was told to simply move on. But the official record was incomplete. During quiet structural renovations at Kensington Palace, Princess Anne was assigned to catalogue personal items from a forgotten storage space, left entirely untouched since the late 90s. Amidst the elegant artifacts, she noticed an intricately carved rosewood jewellery box. Etched faintly beneath its lid were two defiant initials, D.S. Diana Spencer. When Princess Anne triggered a concealed mechanism at the base of the box, she did not uncover royal heirlooms. She found the original, unredacted draft of the 1995 mishap letter. This pristine document changed everything. There were no black markers to protect the powerful. In her own distinct handwriting, Diana did not just express vague fears, she explicitly named Camilla. Furthermore, the draft revealed that Diana's concerns were not merely personal. She outlined a complex financial infrastructure. Diana had identified a network of influential backers and fixers, operating quietly behind the scenes, using royal charitable foundations as a shield for illicit, unauthorized capital movements. Diana had been tracking them. She realized that her status, her global influence, and her unyielding curiosity made her a direct liability to a highly organized and lucrative operation. For Princess Anne, a senior royal who has spent her entire life defined by pragmatism, strict discipline, and absolute loyalty to the crown, holding this document was a profound system shock. For decades, the institutional consensus had dismissed Diana as fragile, unpredictable, and overwhelmed by the spotlight. Anne herself had once accepted that narrative. Yet, looking at the precise dates, the matching financial codes, and the undeniable logic of the draft, the reality was stark and unavoidable. Diana was never paranoid. She was exceptionally observant. The woman the press labeled as unstable was, in fact, operating like a lone intelligence analyst deep inside a compromised environment. She was meticulously documenting a massive breach of trust, while surrounded by people who were either entirely oblivious or deliberately looking the other way. A single letter, no matter how specific, can always be dismissed by legal teams and institutional experts as the product of an anxious mind under pressure. But numbers, ledgers, and bank transfers do not suffer from paranoia. They are objective. They leave a permanent, undeniable trail. And what Princess Anne discovered next, hidden deep within a secure Swiss vault in October 2025, finally provided the missing key to one of the most heavily debated mysteries of the 20th century: the vast, unexplained wealth of Henri Paul. To comprehend the weight of this discovery, we have to look at the established facts that have puzzled independent investigators for years. For decades, the global public was told that the driver of the Mercedes on that fateful night in Paris was simply an intoxicated hotel security deputy who tragically lost control of a vehicle while fleeing aggressive photographers. However, official reports from established news outlets, including the BBC, have long documented a glaring anomaly. At the time of the crash, Henri Paul, a man earning a standard, middle-class salary, was mysteriously operating 13 separate bank accounts. These accounts collectively held hundreds of thousands of francs. Furthermore, on the night of August 31st, 1997, he was carrying a substantial, highly unusual amount of cash that no official inquiry could ever fully justify. The accepted, convenient narrative casually suggested this wealth came from accumulated tips, handed out by wealthy hotel guests. It was an explanation that quickly closed the case, but it never truly satisfied anyone who looked at the logistics. Princess Anne decided to look at the logistics. Armed with the physical evidence retrieved from the secret compartment at Kensington Palace, she began to carefully cross-reference the tiny, seemingly random coordinates and serial numbers etched onto the back of Diana's hidden jewellery. These engravings were not sentimental dates. They were corresponding routing numbers to offshore accounts held in Zurich. As Anne meticulously laid out the financial documents in that quiet viewing room, comparing the dates and the transfer amounts, a chillingly clear pattern began to emerge. The massive deposits filtering into Henri Paul's 13 accounts did not come from generous hotel patrons or paparazzi informants. The money trail traced directly back to the very financial network Diana had outlined in her unredacted letter. The exact amounts deposited into the driver's accounts aligned flawlessly, down to the last decimal, with substantial, undocumented withdrawals made from a series of charitable trusts. These trusts, operating under the guise of humanitarian initiatives, were acting as front organizations, and according to the ledgers, they were directly overseen and authorized by the inner circle loyal to Camilla. Anne matched the dates of those specific withdrawals to the weeks and days immediately preceding the trip to Paris. The precision of the transactions was striking. Large sums of capital had been quietly moved offshore, washed through legitimate-sounding charitable programs, and systematically funneled into the personal accounts of the man tasked with driving the Princess of Wales. It was a brilliantly constructed system of plausible deniability. Diana had figured out the mechanism of this shadow economy, making her a direct liability to an incredibly lucrative operation. The narrative that defined a generation was fundamentally flawed. The tragedy in the Alma Tunnel was not the result of reckless driving or a sudden loss of vehicle control. It was a precise, calculated transaction. As Princess Anne gathered the ledgers, the reality of the situation solidified. Paris 1997 was never a random accident. It was a contract, paid in full, orchestrated by the very individuals operating behind the protective veil of the royal institution. When you disrupt a deeply entrenched system, retaliation is inevitable. But in their desperate attempt to maintain control of the narrative, the individuals protecting Operation Marionette made a profound, irreversible miscalculation. They crossed an absolute red line. They targeted the next generation, and in doing so, they triggered the fierce, unyielding protective resolve of Catherine, Princess of Wales. On the afternoon of May 2nd, at exactly 2:30 Greenwich Mean Time, the escalating tension moved from hidden financial documents to physical reality. A black SUV carrying Catherine, alongside Prince George and Princess Charlotte, was navigating a narrow, heavily wooded country lane near the private Sandringham estate. It was supposed to be a highly secure, routine route. Without warning, a heavy, unregistered commercial van aggressively breached their perimeter. The encroaching vehicle did not simply swerve into their lane due to driver error. It executed a deliberate, tactical maneuver, aggressively forcing the royal vehicle off the tarmac and into the deep surrounding embankment. While the occupants survived the severe impact without catastrophic injuries, the message was delivered with chilling clarity. The immediate instinct of the traditional palace communications team was to quietly classify the event as a minor, unfortunate traffic incident involving a reckless civilian. But Princess Anne, already anticipating a physical countermeasure from the network, immediately bypassed the standard royal security protocols. She quietly dispatched an independent, trusted team of retired MI5 operatives to secure the damaged SUV long before the official palace mechanics were allowed access to the wreckage. What the independent intelligence team uncovered completely dismantled the illusion of a random accident. Their forensic diagnostic report confirmed that the royal SUV's braking system had been intentionally compromised. It was not a standard mechanical failure caused by wear and tear. It was a targeted electronic override. A sophisticated microchip had been covertly integrated into the vehicle's computer system, designed to remotely disrupt the braking capabilities at a critical moment. It was the exact same method of technological sabotage that Diana had explicitly feared and documented in her 1995 letter, and the very same signature suspected in the Paris crash. The architects of the cover-up were utilizing a familiar, untraceable playbook. This calculated physical threat fundamentally altered the psychological dynamics within the highest ranks of the royal family. For over a decade, Catherine had been the ultimate embodiment of the institution's guiding philosophy. Never complain, never explain. She had consistently weathered intense media scrutiny and complex internal disputes with a measured, stoic demeanor, always prioritizing the stability of the crown. However, an orchestrated threat against the lives of her children instantly dissolved any remaining allegiance to that silent protocol. She refused to allow her family to become acceptable collateral damage for an establishment trying to hide its past. For Prince William, the wreckage on the Sandringham estate served as the final, undeniable catalyst. The unspoken hope that the shadows of 1997 would eventually remain in the past was entirely shattered. He realized that his continued silence and adherence to royal tradition would not protect the monarchy. It would only guarantee that his children would inherit the exact same dangers his mother faced. The institutional shield he had trusted all his life was, in reality, a trap. At that defining moment, the dutiful heir stepped back, and a father preparing for a definitive confrontation emerged. There would be no more quiet compromises behind closed doors. The decision was made to bring the entire network into the light. Just 24 hours before Prince William bypassed traditional media to deliver his unprecedented broadcast, Buckingham Palace was quietly paralyzed by a directive rarely seen outside of wartime. It was a sweeping executive measure, known within the highest levels of government as the Protocol of Silence. The inner circle, implicated in Operation Marionette, had realized that Princess Anne and the heir to the throne were no longer just asking uncomfortable questions. They possessed the physical Zurich files, the unredacted documents, and the digital backups. Facing the imminent collapse of a carefully maintained 27-year narrative, the architects of the cover-up executed a desperate countermeasure. Capitalizing on the king's recent absence and fragile health condition, Queen Camilla and her closest institutional allies bypassed standard parliamentary and legal oversight. They invoked emergency executive powers, wrapping their actions in the impenetrable justification of national security. The objective was swift and absolute containment. The protocol authorized a specialized armed tactical police unit to immediately descend upon Princess Anne's private country estate. Their orders were explicit: secure the perimeter, breach the residence, and confiscate every digital hard drive, encrypted server, and physical document linked to the ongoing internal investigation. The establishment was prepared to use the full force of the state to ensure the secrets of 1997 remained locked away. However, the architects of this raid fundamentally underestimated the deep, lingering fractures within their own intelligence community. The security apparatus of the United Kingdom is not a monolith, and the legacy of Diana still resonated quietly within its ranks. When the official command to raid the Princess Royal's home was handed down, it triggered an immediate and highly dangerous schism within MI5. One faction, strictly bound by the formal chain of command and institutional loyalty, mobilized to execute the warrant. But another group quickly intercepted the intelligence. These were veteran operatives, many of whom had served during the turbulent years of the late 90s. They were seasoned professionals who had silently witnessed the systemic security failures surrounding the late Princess of Wales, and some still carried quiet, personal debts of gratitude for the discreet support Diana had offered to their own families during her life. As the official tactical units arrived at the iron gates of Anne's estate at 9 in the morning on May 7th, they did not find an easy target. Instead, they found their path deliberately blocked. They were not met by standard royal protection officers, but by a highly trained, heavily equipped perimeter detail formed entirely by those dissenting intelligence veterans. What followed was a silent, intensely volatile standoff on British soil. Active agents and former colleagues stared each other down across the reinforced gates of a royal residence. The official tactical units held the formal legal authority, but the dissenting operatives held the superior tactical position and an absolute, unyielding refusal to step aside. They communicated a clear, uncompromising message to the advancing commanders. Any attempt to force entry and silence Princess Anne would result in an immediate, highly public escalation that the crown could not politically survive. The establishment blinked first. The raid was halted, and this unprecedented standoff bought William and Anne the exact window of time they needed to prepare their final global move. How did the establishment's ultimate plan fail so completely? Why was the Queen's faction outmaneuvered when they held the absolute power of the state? The answer lies in the most profound lesson Diana imparted to her eldest son before she passed away. Never place your trust, and certainly never place your evidence, within the control of a single institution. Prince William understood that standard legal protections would instantly collapse under the weight of the protocol of silence. If they kept the physical evidence within the borders of the United Kingdom, it could easily be suppressed by High Court injunctions, confiscated by armed security forces, or permanently classified under sweeping national secrecy acts. He knew the traditional rules of engagement no longer applied. Therefore, he engineered a decentralized digital fortress. During those critical tense hours while dissenting intelligence officers held the perimeter at Princess Anne's estate, William executed a highly sophisticated security measure commonly known in intelligence circles as a dead man's switch. The execution was flawless. The entire compiled cache of evidence was digitized. This included the unredacted 1995 mishap letter, the meticulous Zurich financial ledgers exposing the shadow accounts linked to Henri Paul, the raw audio confessions recorded by Diana herself in her final months, and the newly acquired forensic reports proving the Sandringham vehicle was electronically sabotaged. This massive archive was heavily encrypted and deliberately routed away from any palace or government servers. Instead, it was transmitted to 50 carefully vetted, independent investigative journalists operating strictly outside of British legal jurisdiction. Major news desks in the United States, France, and Germany received the locked data packets simultaneously. The conditions attached to this mechanism were non-negotiable. The decryption keys required to open these files were tied to an automated offshore server that required a secure daily verification signal from William, Catherine, and Anne. If the palace establishment attempted to place any of them under house arrest, if their private communications were suddenly severed, or if any further physical threats materialized, that automated verification would fail. The exact second it failed, the server was programmed to instantly broadcast the master passwords to all 50 international journalists. The opposition was entirely neutralized. Any aggressive move by the crown to silence the heirs to the throne would immediately trigger the undeniable global publication of Operation Marionette. We are watching the established history of the 20th century being actively rewritten in real time. The collapse of a deeply entrenched, incredibly powerful faction is unfolding right before our eyes, broadcast directly to the world without intermediaries. The carefully constructed narrative that defined the modern monarchy for nearly 3 decades has permanently shattered. In the end, it was not the traditional palace guards, the vast wealth of the estate, or the centuries-old protocols that secured the safety of the royal family. It was a mother's brilliant foresight. Diana's unwavering vow to protect her children from the hidden dangers of the institution ultimately became the very shield that saved them 27 years later. The question now is, how will the British government and the international community react to this unprecedented constitutional bombshell? The power dynamic within the monarchy has fundamentally shifted, and the era of absolute silence is over. Leave your thoughts and theories in the comments section below. Ensure your notifications are turned on, because we will be returning within 24 hours to cover the immediate fallout and the latest breaking developments in this historic crisis.